Thanks for joining us for this KEYC News Now to Go update. I'm Jackson Jirik, joined by First Alert meteorologist Caitlyn, Lorr, and Caitlyn. If the weather team could bring some warmer weather, I know the entire state of Minnesota, Mankato specifically, and the rest of the Midwest would appreciate it quite a bit, because I woke up this morning and it was like -8 on my screen in my car. I was like, this is ridiculous.
Well, you know, we did choose to live in a place where the air hurts our face.
Yeah.
So we do have to endure that. But as far as warmer weather goes, we have one day in the next 10 days that's going to be warm. And I don't know, can you consider the 20s warm? I feel like after today we can.
Yeah, I feel like we're Minnesotans. 20s are warm.
I'm going to have to agree, which that'll be Friday. But after that, we're going to go right back into the teens and single digits. So I guess we can look forward to Friday if you're also excited for snow. So since we have no warm weather on the way in our near future, I thought maybe we could channel some warmer weather and talk about some of those firsts that we have coming up. This says holiday countdown, but I thought it'd be more fun to count down to some of those more warmer temperatures that we typically see. The first day of spring, March 20th, is 37 days away. That's a little over a month, not too bad. Easter following behind that at 68 days away. And then, of course, the first day of summer, astronomical summer that is, June 20th, starts 129 days from today. Now, if you want, you can get a little more excited because meteorological summer starts June 1st, which would be about 20 days prior to then. So I'll let you decide which ones you want to look forward to, but hopefully this helps you feel a little bit warm, knowing that the first day of spring is just over a month away. Now, low temperatures from this morning have been pretty cold out there. We are seeing that they started off well below zero. The good news is we are going to rise above zero, but the bad news is not by much. We're going to top out in those mid-single digits through this afternoon as we continue to lose that cloud coverage. And, you know, snow chances coming up. We are tracking quite a few chances, with tonight one of them into tomorrow, and then upcoming this weekend and again next week early in the week. I'll have more details on tonight's snow chance coming up shortly. Jackson?
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Caitlyn. We'll start with some political news. Monday, Senate DFLers in St. Paul talked about their plan for the 2025 legislative session and how they hope to tackle policy with a limited budget. Quinn Gorham reports.
We started this session working across the aisle with our colleagues in good faith, with good intention, and we're calling on them now to join us to forestall what we understand could be harmful and damaging budget reductions and policy changes.
Senate DFLers unveiling their legislative priorities Monday while simultaneously calling out the Trump administration.
We're concerned about what we're seeing with the chaos agenda, Trump and his musketeers, and we want to make sure that Minnesotans understand that we're here for them and for our collective future together.
Where last year's DFL had a long list of specific bills they intended to pass, this year's party is taking a broader approach. There were few specifics given at a session preview on Monday, instead focusing on balancing the state budget and protecting it from a perceived threat coming out of Washington.
We don't have a clue what this is going to do, and if the federal government does some of the things, either threats against specific states or overall things that could just devastate parts of the economy.
One specific example was Medicaid. Senator John Marty from Roseville said that the state gets about $8 billion in Medicaid funding from the federal government each year. Removing even a sliver of that could make an already tight budget even tighter.
If they are talking about cutting that back, which they are, that would just devastate. It's something that state governments, no state government can make up for that kind of cuts. None of them can.
But unlike last year's DFL, they'll need at least some bipartisanship. Any bill will need at least Republican support in the House to get through. Leadership thinks they'll be able to drum that up.
We will work with our colleagues across the aisle to make sure that they understand what the consequences of some of the decisions that might come our way will be for communities across the state of Minnesota.
In St. Paul, Quinn Gorham, KEYC News Now.
Now, the party didn't rule out any new investments or programs, but leaned heavily on the fact that balancing the state budget ought to be the top priority. The former Mayo Clinic doctor accused of fatally poisoning his wife 2 years ago was back in Olmsted County Court. Connor Bowman is charged with first-degree murder. The defense and the state called one witness each. The defense called a criminal defense investigator with the public defender's office who talked about extracting data from devices that the state provided her with. She worked with Bowman to go through that evidence. The state called Detective Brock Newman with the Rochester Police Department Technology Forensics Unit. He talked about data extraction and how any sensitive information is being handled. Connor's wife, Betty, passed away in August of 2023. He was arrested 2 months later. For many Minnesotans, frozen lakes in the wintertime are a way of life. But local law enforcement agencies want residents to be very mindful every time that they go out there. Aaron Stuvey has more.
Driving on the ice during the winter months is always you do it at your own risk.
The LeSueur County Sheriff's Office has warned lakegoers about Lake Washington, which has seen an area of open water and vehicles going through the ice. The part of the lake is known as the Narrows to local residents. The Sheriff's Office says that the area often struggles to retain ice every year. The warning is just one of many from sheriff's offices around the area, as the second consecutive unseasonable winter has made many winter activities unpredictable.
It's generally around pressure ridges where the ice cracks. It can be where culverts drain into the lake or field tile. It can be near bridges or points of land at just where this water stays moving.
Overall, this year has been good for ice development. The lack of snow paired with average temperatures mean the ice isn't insulated and can freeze much easier, but lakes still have weak spots, and the warm temperatures from a couple of weeks ago didn't help with ice stability. Still, the same safety tips remain true for any time someone goes out onto the ice, which law enforcement reminds residents is always an inherent risk.
Do a little research on the lake you're going out on, okay? And once you get there, to travel with the windows down and the doors unlocked. Some say you should unbuckle your seatbelt as well, so you can exit that vehicle in a hurry if you need to.
At Lake Washington, I'm Aaron Stuvey.
Now an update to a story we brought to you just last week. A North Mankato business has closed its doors. In a post on Facebook, Neutral Ground said a buyer has purchased the rest of our retail and the business closed at 4 p.m. Monday. The post goes on to say the business is thankful for the support over the years and that an online auction would start soon in honor of late owner Deb Morin. The business had originally posted that they would remain open through the end of February. Neutral Grounds originally opened in 2017 with a coffee shop and later expanded to include home decor and more. An arbitrator rules in favor of Alex Rodriguez and his business partner in their bid to buy the Timberwolves and Lynx from owner Glenn Taylor. The panel ruled that Taylor must cede control of the NBA club to partners Mark Lorr and Alex Rodriguez in the disputed final phase of the sale. The $1.5 billion transaction was uniquely arranged 3 years ago to give Lorr and Rodriguez the majority stake. But Taylor announced last March that he was exercising his right to pull out of the deal due to the fact that Lorr and Rodriguez did not send the final payment within the 90-day deadline. Taylor bought the Wolves back in 1994. As early as today, President Donald Trump says he could announce sweeping reciprocal tariffs. The idea is the U.S. would match tariffs a given country has on specific American goods. The eye for eye concept gets trickier when the U.S. doesn't export something it imports. Experts say reciprocal tariffs could be broad enough to have a major impact on the U.S. and global economies. Amy Kyler reports on what they could mean for American consumers.
It's time to be reciprocal.
President Donald Trump says he plans to formally announce reciprocal tariffs soon.
If they charge us, we charge them. If they're at 25, we're at 25.
Trump argues tariffs raise revenue, balance trade, and serve as leverage, although his opponents question some of that logic. Economists say the usual reason to impose tariffs is to help domestic producers. For instance, a business might pay 10% extra for American products to avoid paying 25% more on imports. Either way, the cost is higher, and many in corporate America oppose Trump's tariffs.
Business people are going to be cautious, and clearly that has broader implications for the economy.
Experts say companies are likely to pass on some of that added cost to consumers. Most mainstream economists say tariffs cause inflation. Some worry broad reciprocal ones could be a significant blow to the U.S. economy.
These reciprocal tariffs likely would mean higher prices for Americans because most of our trading partners have higher tariffs on our goods than we have on theirs.
Another concern is the potential for trade wars. Many experts say rising tariffs could harm the global economy.
You have a sweater and you snag it on a nail or a piece of wood and it starts to unravel. That's what's going to happen with world trade.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Well, Caitlyn, in some weather news, the good news is if you're headed out for Valentine's Day and you have a date on Friday night, it's going to be warm. The bad news is that's the only warm day in the foreseeable future because nothing else is going to go right.
And you know, I kind of want to put warm in quotes because for people not in Minnesota, it's not going to be warm. But for those of us that live here, mid-20s is pretty warm, especially with what we're dealing with now.
That's a 35-degree difference from right now.
And if you take the wind chill into consideration, that could be a 60-degree difference. So it is going to be much warmer for Valentine's Day, so hopefully your plans are holding off until then. But it's still going to be on the chilly side, so don't get too excited. Now, speaking of chilly side, this is where we started this morning. This is the low temperature from this morning or since midnight across the state of Minnesota and really much of the west, to our west, the Dakotas that is. Take a look at International Falls. They started at 27 below zero this morning, and that is not the wind chill being taken into consideration, which is why a lot of us woke up to a cold advisory this morning because of these temperatures and the wind chills that were associated with them. Mankato hit a low of 11 below zero earlier this morning, and then since then we started to warm up, but don't get too excited. We're not going to get too warm across the area. Here's a closer look at where some of our friends and neighbors around southern Minnesota and northern Iowa kind of hit their lowest temperature this morning. The coldest we got in the area was 18 below zero out by Marshall, and then temperatures started to slowly rise, but still continue to hover in those single digits through the morning hours. Now, we're not really going to rise above zero until the late morning, early afternoon hours, and then once we do, we're not going to continue to rise much higher. We're looking at a high of 6 degrees by this afternoon. And then as we go through the afternoon hours, we're going to lose our sunshine as clouds kind of thicken up, taking over the sky, leading to mostly cloudy skies as temperatures slowly but surely drop back below zero after 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. From that point forward, temperatures and wind chill values will be below zero. Today, wind chill values are going to remain below zero, even though winds through the afternoon today are going to kind of hover between calm conditions and 5 to 10 miles an hour. All we need are winds of 5 miles an hour or greater for wind chills to form or come about, but in bitter cold conditions like this with clear skies and sunshine, sometimes winds less than 5 miles an hour can lead to a wind chill, and it does happen. So here's what our wind chill is looking like for the upcoming afternoon and into tonight. We're going to kind of hover anywhere between 6 and 8 below zero through this afternoon and tonight, but then as we go into tomorrow morning, those wind chill values are going to drop back into those double digits below zero. So it's only going to get colder as we get into tomorrow morning. Temperatures themselves tonight will drop to a low of 1 below zero by tomorrow morning with some flurries possible. So let's talk about those flurry chances after midnight. Now, like I said, we're going to see those increasing clouds this afternoon into this evening, becoming mostly cloudy by tonight. There is a massive snowstorm headed towards the Illinois area and southern Wisconsin. That's going to bring some snow up into northern Iowa and southern Minnesota, but not quite nearly as much as they are looking at to our southeast. So flurries could start anytime after 4 a.m. in the area, more so northern Iowa. Those of us here in southern Minnesota may not see a whole lot of snow in the sense of flurries until later tomorrow morning and into the afternoon hours. And again, we're really only looking at flurry chances up here. Portions of northern Iowa may see a little bit heavier snowfall at times, but regardless if it's a little heavier, it's still going to be very light overall. And as you can see, by 7 p.m. tomorrow evening, that snow is going to start to wrap up and leaving behind a little bit of cloud coverage, which is also anticipated to clear up as we make our way into Thursday morning. Snow totals, I know this is always a big question for this system moving through tonight. As you can see, those totals get a lot heavier the more southeast you head towards the border of Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois. But for us, we're only really looking at a dusting with maybe up to an inch in portions of southeastern Minnesota and northwestern Iowa. So really not a whole lot of snow headed our way, just a few flurries in the mix. Tomorrow, that cloud coverage is going to continue to keep us colder with highs in the single digits as we see those flurries through the afternoon hours. Here's a look at your extended forecast showcasing that Friday will be the warmest day of the upcoming weekend and next week with highs in the mid-20s. But as I mentioned, don't get too excited or happy about it because it's going to go right back into the single digits and teens with another chance of snow possible on Monday.
I pray that we creep into that warmer weather as we near the end of February. I also hope that we do get a little bit of snow.
Hey, you know, as I always say, if it's cold enough to snow in the winter, it should be snowing. I feel like it just kind of makes everybody a little bit happier, even those that don't like the snow.
We'll see what happens. Well, the Xcel Energy Center is the home for the Minnesota Wild and high school state hockey tournament. Tonight, or last night rather, the venue hosts the Mankato West boys hockey team and Anoka in a game that was supposed to be played in Duluth earlier this season. The Scarlets couldn't play that game after having their sticks stolen at the holiday tourney, and that's where the Wild stepped in to make sure the game would still take place despite the circumstances. Let's fast forward to the second period last night. Shout out to Mark Ullman for streaming the game. Mankato West leading in shots on goal in this one. Breakthrough with under 5 minutes to go in the second. Grady Hadelstead puts it into the back of the net. Great look there from the senior, and the Mankato West team goes on to win by a final of 1-0 over Anoka in the non-conference matchup. Great result in a game with these players that they will never forget. A milestone to keep an eye on. Mason Schreiber needs less than 10 saves to hit 2,000 after tonight's matchup. The junior will have a chance to eclipse the mark Tuesday night when the team battles Chaska. Well, we want to thank you guys again for this continued support on something new here at KEYC. And thanks for watching this KEYC News Now to Go update. Stay with KEYC News Now for the latest local news, weather, and sports on our website.
And of course, as always, download the free KEYC News and weather apps for the latest headlines and forecasts.
And until next time, have a great day.